Hello, and welcome to the Off Meta Umineko Read Along podcast, where I guide my friends and first time readers through my favorite story of all time, the highly acclaimed murder mystery visual novel Umineko When They Cry. We just finished episode 5, End of the Golden Witch, and as the author Ryukishi07 basically begged us to do, we're going to take a bit of time before we continue reading to try and put together some thoughts and theories about what is going on in this story. Joining me on this foolhardy quest, we have our readers, James Capelli, Ben, Hayley, and Becca. Welcome, y'all. So, give it to me straight. Did y'all manage to solve Umineko?
Yeah.
So, first of all, I'm jumping right in there, and I just want to say, like I said when I first joined this voice channel, good evening, everybody except Kyle. That's how I feel about it overall, and everybody else can answer the question.
No way. Turns out, if you use modern day analytics and deciphering tools, you have this little thing in your pocket called Google,
Oh.
and that makes solving the story way easier.
So yeah, just to be clear, I don't actually expect y'all to solve Umineko. What we're going to be doing here is we're just going to go over some of y'all's pet theories, other things I think are worth discussing in terms of what y'all's thoughts are on them, and we'll just see how it goes. So I guess the first place to start is what was the process that y'all used to try and solve is a harsh word, but figure out what's going on with the story.
For me, I focused primarily on the red text.
Fair.
I broke down the structure of the murders, who died when, what's relevant about their deaths. Right. So in episode 1, whose face was completely destroyed versus whose was not.
Mhm.
What order did they die in? And then looking at the red text. Right. So Natsui's bullet the bullet that killed Natsui at the end of episode 1 was not fired from her own gun.
Mhm.
That is important. So just looking through that, if you can compare that to the red text. And that's it. I didn't dig in too deep to the nitty gritty because everything is arbitrary unless it's said in the red text or disputed by the blue from how I looked at it. Say, okay, if I can do that and build a base theory, then I'll go back into the details and see if it fits what I think is going on.
Okay.
So I let the red text guide what I thought was going on.
It's funny that you say you didn't get into the nitty gritty because I think of the red text as the nitty gritty because it's too much detail.
Well, yeah, but so rather than read the whole summary and then kind of piece okay, no, but Battler gave these 15 theories and we got one red text out of it. I don't care so much what his red theories are because he's incompetent. But what what useful information he got out of it is what is important. Then you can look back to, okay, well, Runaway pulled Beatrice away so that she didn't say too much too early. Okay, that's more okay. Why? And I've got theories as to that and everything, but nitty gritty is I didn't dig into it. I didn't reread all of episodes 1 through 5. I wish I had the time to do it. I would have loved to have done that after having my theory to see how well it works, but life.
Alas, we are busy people, so yeah, that was not an expectation that I expect y'all to do. So
Okay. How did I tackle it? With the usual chaos, I tackle everything. I probably just picked a bit and went with it. And the bit I picked was I actually used red text to unhook something specifically about Battler
Ooh.
that I think is actually really important to the who and the why.
Cool.
He's the main character, which is why I started with him. In true me fashion, I have been more concerned with the people, how they and their relationships with each other, and how that could potentially build a plausible reasoning for the events on Rokkenjiima. I think that's probably it in a nutshell. Oh, so one of the things I did was the logic grid. So I have a couple of logic grids out there which map out when people died, what points in the story they were alive versus not, if they're considered human or not, that kind of thing.
I did tell Kyle that if a key to this puzzle is that furniture are not considered humans, I'm just gonna smack him in the face next time we meet. I'm gonna do something over dramatic.
I think I originally told you if that was all it was, then do you really think that this would be my favorite story?
Yeah, but what if that's part of it, but not all? I don't.
Maybe.
There's a reason I dropped off of it, which is it would be too much of a loose thread to drop in episode 2 and then just literally never be brought up again.
Mm-hmm. Ben.
All right. Mine is very piecemeal in the sense that I have the overall opinion that there is some sort of key event that we have not been witness to, we have not seen, that takes this story in their different episodes on their like respective paths, meaning that there are different killers, there are different accomplices in each episode, and so you have to solve that. But the overall the overall story itself is more about what exactly is the mastermind behind starting all of this, even if they didn't actually kill anyone, maybe, or maybe they died along with this, rather than like that there is two or three. I think there has to be, like, at least based on what we've talked about, there has to be at least one killer and up to two accomplices, maybe three in each episode. And so I just took it episode by episode, and I'm looking just at the stuff that each episode talked about and what happened, and then I'm kind of working backwards into more of a theory from there. It's a little bit more piecemeal, but I feel like I can take better chunks when I just work episode by episode as opposed to looking at the entire story as a whole.
Yeah.
It is a lot. It is a lot.
So
I went out about it similarly. Like I worked through episode 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and not as much into 5, and then I tried to tie it all together. I have grids and I have spreadsheets.
Wow.
I will show you all kind of what I did later. They're not in depth, but like we'll get into it.
All right. Well, should we go ahead and jump to it? Do we want to have each of you kind of give your broad strokes of your theory?
Yeah, what we want to do is Ben, Hayley, and I each have our main leading theory, and Becca, who has been the craziest busy of us all, is going to decide who she thinks is most likely to be correct before we start digging into each other's theories and picking them apart and finding any errors or questions that we have on them. So,
You must present me with compelling evidence.
Capelli evidence, you got it.
Sure.
It's the worst kind of evidence. Ugh.
Sure, I will happily go first. All right. So I'm going to start with just telling you all who I think it is and then get into how I got there. I think we have one mastermind.
Okay.
And 4 or 5 accomplices. And my mastermind is Rosa. Rosa is my pick for who I think is orchestrating the deaths on the game board in a mystery solution sort of world. And I believe our accomplices are essentially the staff, which would be Shannon, Cannon, Kumasawa, Nanjo, and Genji. I'm not sold on all 5 of them. Shannon is like a bit of a stretch just because of her relationship with George. But Genji is like my number 1. This is an accomplice. Nanjo is my number 2. This is an accomplice. The way I got that is as I charted out the deaths and the orders in each episode, looking at the red text, who is confirmed as a homicide versus who's confirmed as a death. In episode 1, we only have 6 people confirmed homicides. None of them are the first Twilight. In episode 2, the only people confirmed homicides are the first Twilight and Jessica, but not Cannon. We only know that Cannon is dead. In episode 3, the only confirmed homicides are Rosa and Maria and Nanjo. And then first Twilight are confirmed dead, and Shannon is a weird case because of the whole resurrection thing, maybe. And then episode 4 is its own beast where nobody is confirmed as a homicide. And episode 5 I didn't get to go into. So looking at that, I think, okay, well, there's a whole point that we have people confirmed dead, quote unquote, with their faces all mangled, and some of them only half of their faces mangled. Whose faces are completely mangled is Rudolph, Kyrie, Kraus, and Rosa. And the only red text we get is I can confirm the identities of all the corpses, which is a non-statement, because if they're not actually dead, they ain't a corpse.
Yeah, that's something they talked about in episode 5, yeah.
Right.
Ronave brought up that there's nothing wrong with someone claiming something to be a corpse that's not a corpse.
Yeah, so looking at that, I say, okay, well, all 6 of the first Twilight are not actually confirmed innocent, right? We're told specifically all of the survivors have alibis. Just because they die later doesn't mean they didn't do nothing. Reading through, like, up until we get the red text at the end of episode 4, I'm like, Genji, Kumasawa, and Nanjo, they're the clear top suspects. And then we get the red text, none of these 3 are killers. Not that none of these 3 are culprits, specifically none of these 3 are killers, which tells me at least one of them is an accomplice because of how that red text was framed.
Okay.
Genji is my top pick because of how he and Cannon find the locked room at the second Twilight of Eva and Hideyoshi. The room is locked. Cannon leaves. Genji enters, I assume. And then he was in the room with them and killed them. Steps back out. He's got a master key, which again, going to episode 2, Beatrice is like, hey, There's now only five master keys. I've changed the rules of the game, etc., etc. Does kind of give a point into saying that both Genji and Canon being an accomplice doesn't make sense. For like, why would that scenario be presented in that fashion? But Genji is there to like tell everybody that the killings have happened first and foremost in every episode where he survives. Anyways, that's kind of how I go through all that. You get to Canon's death. Canon's death is, they were told that it's not an accident and it's not a suicide, which the only thing that's left there for is homicide or natural causes. I told Kyle, crazy that Canon had a natural cause death, had a heart attack going down the stairs, and then someone stabbed his dead body in the chest with a stake. It's just literally the only thing I can make sense of there. I got through this in each episode. I made a chart that's just like who's confirmed a homicide, who's confirmed dead, what red text are we given that basically confirms whether or not someone is a culprit. Right, there is a point where in like episode 2 it's like all the people up to this point are not culprits. So it kind of like plays with wordplay a little bit. If they're not a culprit in one episode, are they not a culprit anywhere else? The only other time that's really relevant is Kraus is given a red text that he's not the culprit in episode 5. So I'm kind of taking it to say retroactively, if we have a culprit through and through, based on the way the red text is given on Kumasawa, Nanjo, and Genji's death in episode 1, that they're not killers, not specifically not culprits. Well, okay, why? Next thing I looked at the end of episode 5, we're essentially told anybody who sees magic, their testimony is not trustworthy, whether it's they're lying or whatever. Looking into episode 4, we have the conversation between Battler and Kyrie on the phone, where Kyrie basically tells him all this crazy shit that happens. Why would she do that? Does she believe in magic? No. She's being compelled to do this by somebody. She's being forced at gunpoint, or if you don't tell him this, I'm going to kill him. That sort of crazy shit. So anybody who says that this was explained through magic, their testimony is not to be trusted. Going through everything, there are only 3 characters outside of Battler who supposedly only see magic in episode 1, or episode 4, I mean, because they're killed along the process, but they don't actually relay that testimony themselves to our main character. And that would be Kraus, Natsui, and Rosa. Kraus and Natsui, we are given red texts that say they're not the culprits. Natsui flat out is not it, can't be her. Kraus, not in episode 5. I'm taking that to backlog and say it can't be him at all. That left me with Rosa. So looking at this visually, I'm like, okay, let's pull on this Rosa thread. Why would she do it? I think Hayley said something very pertinent at some point late into our episode 5 recordings, which is the motive has to be closely tied to this baby, this 19th person. My current leading theory is that this was Rosa's baby. And if this is Battler, that would make him and Maria siblings. And the motifs of this story tie a lot of a siblinghood together. The way that the two of them interact in each episode is kind of like different in pertinent ways, right? He's very playful with her in episode 1, but also very chastising of her. In episode 2, he's a bit more afraid of her. In episode 3, I think he's extremely buddy with her. And then we don't get too much of them in episode 4 or 5. So pulling on that thread more, it gives her a motive to start. I don't think that's enough, but I think it's a place to start that she's seeing that what her family has done to her is not acceptable. Additionally, I have no evidence of this, but I think it's a fun theory. I think she saw the epitaph a long time ago. I believe in episode 3, when she finds Eva finding the gold, I don't think she was finding it there. I think she was going there and had to play it off like, what do I do? Because I kind of want to kill, and rather than right whatever. So she's then found. She and Maria are found homicided, and at that point, like that's like the kind of sticking point for me is how do you justify that? Which is to say, okay, well, accomplices picked it up and went on, but did Hideyoshi kill them? Like Maria is very clearly strangled, which is messed up. I'm wondering, like, did she drop the ball or did she kill Maria and then tell somebody else to kill her to keep this ruse going? This is where my theory, I know, doesn't hold as much water as I would like it, but it's the closest thing I got. That's really kind of like what led me to do it. There's no red text that ever confirms that she's not the culprit, that she is innocent, that she could not have done it. Every time she's died, except in episode 3, there's ways that she could continue on. So based on the chart, the way I visually laid it out, she's my top culprit. The only other person who fits that same plausible deniability of who it could be is George. And for the life of me, I cannot find a motive for that guy. Right? He was ready to abandon his family if they didn't accept his marriage with Shannon, but we didn't get to see the resolution of that. Like, we know that Eva would not have approved based on her reaction when they find the first Twilight in episode 1, but I just don't see that as a possibility. So the possibility for George is there, following the same threads that I went to find Rosa as a culprit. And then my third crazy off the wall theory, it's so stupid it couldn't be true unless, is that literally everybody's in on it except for Battler. And the only reason that I would have to say that is because of how everybody disappears at the end of episode 4, right? I think that's pretty much where I'm at. So I'm at that with Rosa.
Okay.
Why do I think she has accomplices who have gone along with this? I think these accomplices have all seen what this family is capable of, or what Kinzo has basically permitted. There's a flashback, I believe, in episode 3, well, where we get Eva Beatrice,
Mhm.
where you get a flashback of her as a child. I can't remember if it's her or if it's Rosa. Where basically you get a flashback and they're being scolded by Kinzo or whatever, and Genji is basically the one to comfort them and lead them like out of that, which tells me that Genji had a very important presence in their lives as youths that would lead him to do this. Why would Shannon or Cannon do it? Going into this, my top theory was that it was the two of them, with the motive being closely related to the Fukuin house. And I think that could be their own personal motive there, that he is basically taking people and turning them into his servants. It doesn't sound like they're treated too terribly, but who knows what goes on with the house? Who knows if they were kidnapped and they found out they were kidnapped? Like Ben said earlier, there's a pivotal piece that we have not been shown. Maybe, we probably could like make assumptions to get there, or there's like a couple small lines said somewhere that hint at it. Why would Nanjo go with it? I mean, we're led to believe that he's devoted to Kinzo, but the only time we ever really have Nanjo like really talk about Kinzo is who he is currently, which we know is a lie because he's dead. Goda, I don't have any motive for Goda, with the one exception that at the end of episode 2, where George, Shannon, and Goda are together and then they get killed at the chapel, or they get killed in Natsui's room. The wolves had to outnumber the sheep, which means 2 of 3 of them had to be culprits unless somebody else came along. And like there's mystery of like how did that room get locked that I didn't have time to solve, unless somebody from the outside like steps in, kills George, steps out, locks the room, has Goda locks the room, Goda kills them and suicides, whatever. Because again, their deaths are not confirmed as homicides. All the people who saw Cannon after he supposedly died, that's all a lie, and that involves Goda. But again, for Goda, I cannot find a motive. Anybody who sees magic their testimony is not trustworthy at that point. They're on, in my opinion. The more I go from this point, I think it's going to get cyclical. But that is the long and short of where I'm at. Top suspect, Rosa, has the motive, fits the themes of the story, has plausible capabilities to do it, except for episode 3, where I believe the accomplices stepped up to act in her stead. Number 2, George, just because it's possible.
So are we ruling out the possibility that people seeing magic could be them getting manipulated somehow and not necessarily having to be in on it, or even lying? Like maybe they think they're telling the truth.
No, I'm not ruling that out. Which is like something like that is how I would say Goda could definitely just be an innocent person. But the things that Goda says he saw happen, I don't know how you could falsify that to him. But yeah, I'm not saying if you saw magic, that's it, right? Like just like how I said in episode 4, Kyrie, I don't believe saw Kinzo. Like we are given in the red text, nobody could mistake Kinzo for the person they saw. Not they saw Kinzo, nobody could make that mistake. So it's a lie. Doesn't mean it's a malicious lie, just that it is a lie. And the scene as it ends plays out very heartfelt between her and Battler, and then she's effectively shot in the head, and the phone call ends.
Mhm.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it until y'all prove me wrong.
All right.
I like it. That's a good story.
Do we have any kind of thoughts on what happened in what's the episode where Kinzo locks everyone up in the cage?
That would be episode 4.
4.
Hmm?
What is the prevailing theory on because we know that no one can mistake Kinzo,
Well, we
but we have all of these witnesses.
have kind of collectively decided at some point in talking about episode 4 or 5, that if Battler didn't see it, we don't know for sure that. And the only person that tells us about how things were locked up are the phone calls that he has with Kyrie and Kraus. And they say, this is what happened. It's impossible for him to have gotten us here. No, someone's got them in distress. Right? I think like Kinzo even says, if you don't call them, I'm going to kill Jessica.
Hmm.
I believe there is truth in that lie about why they're giving this nonsense story. Battler never sees this cage. He never validates anyone else's story except for the two of them.
Mhm.
The only other people who could validate any of it would be Kumasawa and Goda, who are cryptic and then are locked up in a shed and then are found dead later. There's no credibility to that story at all, which has to mean people are lying. And the why they are lying is what's very important.
Okay.
I don't have much to dispute anything that you've said. I think that you laid out a very good theory. The overall why done it of Rosa is still eluding me. I understand that there's a lot of I think in the short term, Rosa why done it makes sense. Like if you just look at like isolated, well, she was obviously the most picked on in the family. She was the youngest. There are a lot of like short term reasons, but just my gut feeling about this, and that's why I can't dispute it, is that there is something bigger happening here.
I'll remind you of one thing that is not said in the red, and it's said by Kinzo, quote unquote dead Kinzo. And it's in episode 1, I think, where he's saying how disappointed he is in each of his family and how they could never succeed him as the head.
Mhm.
Battler threw away his honor of being.
Who were the honor of the Shirmia family? Yeah.
What he says about Rosa is that she married or she got with some nobody. Like that's his thing about her.
Mhm.
But Maria is that she is a disgusting thing to look upon. We spent a long time theorizing that she is a product of incest. And I kind of think like that's part of it. Who could have done that? I mean, I'm looking at the kind of people who are being killed a lot.
To me, that means Kraus.
Kraus, Kinzo, Hideyoshi, even Rudolph, like all of them
Hmm.
could do it. Like the way that they're killed, very gruesome, particularly the first Twilights.
It's very female centric. Like a lot of what we've seen so far is like the women are the ones leading in most stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm that's not saying anything about gender roles in itself. It's just what we're seeing
Right.
is that, and this will go into my theory a little bit, is that you don't see much of Rudolph. You don't see that much of Kraus. You see just enough to keep them relevant to the story,
Mm-hmm.
but not enough that it like they're ever looked at as like serious culprits. So
Yeah, we literally know more about Kyrie and Natsui, who were married into the family, than we do about Rudolph and Kraus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we know more about Hideyoshi too, than especially Rudolph.
Yeah. Hideyoshi gets a lot of screen time because he's great.
We know more about Eva than we do Hideyoshi. That's like the one person that kind of.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I agree with you there. We also had a full episode about Ava.
Mm-hmm. I remember all the hate I gave Eva going into episode 3 as we get like Angie's backstory. And like I think there was a point that Kyle made at the time that was like, if she is innocent, look at what her life became. Constantly suspected, the only person she has loathes her, and she simply does not know how to make a connection with her. She is treating Angie the same way her father treated her because it's the only role model she has, and she probably hates herself for it. So, like Capelli from several episodes ago would hate to hear myself say it that like I could be an Eva apologist depending on what the truth is.
I'm here for Ava apology.
I don't think she's the culprit. I simply do not. Is it ever given in red that she's not the culprit?
I don't think so.
Do you think that she's not the mastermind or not the culprit? I think those are two different things.
Fair.
I think they're the same based on the wording that the story uses.
Okay. then our theories are very different, just based on that one comment alone.
Well, because like again, like if that's the answer, the gameplay is using such like minutia little wordplay that it has never hinted at. It's the same thing I was talking about in episode 1 and 2 and 3, which is furniture are not humans. That breaks the whole. There's only 18 people. Red text. Blah blah blah. And it's just like, okay, but there's what other threads have we been given that support that? Maybe you saw something I didn't, and that's part of your theory. So I want to hear it, obviously.
Mhm.
But
I can assure you I didn't.
okay.
I think you might be missing something in saying that that's part of the minutiae that the story's not leading us to. I think that, like, disregarding those things as unimportant is an injustice. I feel like, from what we've seen with the length of the story, with how many characters we are still yet to see, apparently, like, with the detail that we've got, with all of these logic puzzles within logic puzzles, I think it's a disservice to Rikishio 7 to dismiss the little details like that.
While I want to agree with you, we are pretty explicitly told in episode 5 to kind of follow the Decalogue as a general guide,
Mhm.
which more or less says if the hints aren't given, if the clues aren't there, if the detective doesn't find it, then it's not a thing. And I used that mindset to frame my theory. Where are the clues that culprit and mastermind are not synonymous in this instance?
I have some theories about that.
Well, I would definitely say like the accomplices, like the group of them are the mastermind. Like there's not a leader. I could see that, and then the culprit is whoever is like the main perpetrator of each episode. Like that sort of stuff I could see because that is how the story has been framed to us up until this point. But at no point in any of the red and blue wars back and forth has the solution ever been. These words are not quite interchangeable. You said it in a way, and then it's never brought up or like hinted at or anything like that. I mean, that's just like my gut.
I don't believe that that's the solution. I don't believe wordplay is the solution here in terms of figuring out the red text.
Except for the epitaph.
That's why I said specific the red text in terms of the death.
I did not solve the epitaph.
Wordplay for the epitaph, I think that's the entire point of the epitaph, and I am okay with it being there.
Yeah.
And they kind of made that very clear from the beginning. Like, you're not going to be able to just take this literally.
And again, to bring Maria back up into the epitaph, there was a point where they were looking at the river being a family tree and how specifically Maria and Kinzo are connected. And somebody, I'm just going to assume it was Hayley, caught on to that as a possibility before we got to that reading. So the fact that a reader had that thought and then the story kind of goes into it as well. But that's what I mean is like there's hints to get you there before the story kind of reveals what's going on. To me, you're telling me that culprit and mastermind are not synonymous. Again, you're going to get into it. So I yield the remainder of my time.
Okay, well, let me. I've got a couple of points I want to go over.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so one of your points from episode 1, we were talking about Kumasawa, Nanjo, and Genji are not killers.
Yep.
That's one of the red truths from that's later given for episode 1 about the death of the 3 of them in the parlor.
Right.
I think that one, because it says they are not killers, I think heavily, like, that means they could not have killed anyone up to that point in time.
I agree. I don't think they killed anybody, but I do think they assisted the culprit in framing, trapping, getting people alone. They are the wolves.
Sure. But then previously you said that for the second Twilight that Genji killed Eva and Hideyoshi, I believe. So I want to point out that is an inconsistency.
Well, do we know where Rosa was before they went in?
Rosa was
Dead.
dead in the shed, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was she?
That is what the game is trying to tell us. Whether or not it is actually true is the question, because what Capelli keeps implying is, especially in the first episode, that the people that had their faces smashed weren't actually dead and that were still around somewhere, and that's the only way. And that's why Rosa was able to actually probably kill the people in there while Maria was turned around and singing.
Yes, that is my theory. A little bit more piece that I forgot to get into is episode 5, right? The whole Erica has this rock solid theory of how and why it's not Sui. Battler comes in the epilogue and basically says, "What if I did it? Who said these people were dead?" Again, it's the same statement. The corpses were whatever, but if they're not dead, So why would these people feign being dead? Because Rosa manipulated them and said, if you don't do this, X is going to happen to Y.
So, for Rosa's death in the shed, Rosa is one of the people who has their entire face destroyed.
Mhm.
Are you saying that that's Rosa playing dead still somehow?
I think it's pretty clear that if it's a body double, it's somebody who's been dead for a while.
So that's where you run into problem because I don't think body doubles can work for that.
Right. So body doubles aren't a thing, right? I don't believe it. I believe she is not dead in that moment. And the way that she is not dead in that moment is the same way that she's not dead in episode 5.
Okay.
And I don't need to prove it because red text. Ha 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 ha. He 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 he.
Yeah, I mean, Battler did get up next to those bodies, and you could theoretically say that when he described those corpses, I think left. I mean, they would have to be some pretty intense fakery there, but it's not in red, so it's theoretically up for grabs.
I mean, if we go past that, the only other possibility, the only other person in red that we're told are not suspects are Kinzo, but he's been dead, so not him, Cannon, and the 4 kids who survive. And we're explicitly told the survivors all have alibis,
Mhm.
which leads me to believe that somebody caused these killings and then died in some fashion. Most likely thing is that Natsui killed whoever it was. You get the clock striking midnight, which is when Beatrice steps out into the light for the first time after the game has officially ended, hiding anybody that may have potentially been there.
Sure, sure.
So if it's George and Cannon, like that's a possibility too. One of the accomplices had to be people to place the letter in Kinzo's study, which again is Genji, Kumasawa, Nanjo, and Maria.
Mhm, mhm.
Maria is also very high accomplice on my list as well. But I think it would be more she went along with things because it was framed to her as a game for witches, not that she is evil. She is just an easily manipulated child.
Okay.
More evidence of why I think it could be Rosa is Maria talks about the bad witch in her, which to me just screams like this person has nefarious motives, personality, is just an evil son of a bitch. Anyway, I still remain the hero of my time. We can talk about this more unless there are more direct questions you want to ask.
Yes. Okay, I've got another one.
Ugh.
So I just want to get some clarification. You suspect that the baby that fell off the cliff was Rosa's child. Is that, I believe, something you speculated?
I have absolutely no evidence to it, but it is a theory that fits the way I want it to.
Okay. I just want to remind that that would have been the same year that we get a flashback with Rosa telling her story about finding Beatrice. That is that same year, apparently. And Rosa describes herself as being in middle school at that time. So I just want to make the timeline clear of when that happens.
Well, that puts a big hole in my theory.
I'm not saying it's impossible. It is just
No, you're no. I really hope the story doesn't go in that direction. That a 12 to 14-year-old is put through that, whatever. But in that case, the identity of the baby fits more into the child of one of the servants. Could it be Genji's kid? Could it be Kumasawa's kid? I don't think it would be Nanjo's. And then definitely not Shannon Cannon or Goda, right? Because Goda just joined recently and Cannon and Shannon too young, right? Same problems. But the identity of and then even if I'm right about this whole incest thing with Maria, either like that could be a possibility, or Maria is not Rose's daughter in some weird way. But that's another wild theory that, in my mind, there's absolutely no evidence to support, accepting that she absolutely hates Maria, but can't deny how sweet, innocent younger Maria really is, and how could you not help but love her? So she's very conflicted.
hmm.
A lot of conflicting things that if I had gotten the time to go back and reread with all this in the forefront of my mind and reanalyzing their dynamic, that's what I want to do. I also will say I said Rosa never sees magic. That is not true. In episode 2, when she sees Beatrice and everything. But again, if she's like that means literally everybody has witnessed to see some sort of magic except for Kraus and Natsui, who we have the red that says they're not the culprits.
Although, to be fair, what does it mean to see magic if you don't tell anybody you saw it? If Battler never hears you say, oh yeah, I saw this magic over there, is that free game?
I'm so glad you brought this up because I've been thinking something that actually your theory, Capelli, going through it made me start thinking about is Kyrie, because Kyrie is put in all of these situations where she is reporting like magical things, especially to Battler. But also the altercation where she and Rudolph have to each fight their respective seven sisters of purgatory. And Kyrie beats hers Does Rudolph get murdered by his, or does he beat her as well?
They both win.
They both win?
Hmm.
But do they tell anyone about that?
No, it's all Meta Battler's perspective.
So I'm wondering what all of that is about as a form of magic being witnessed.
Oh, do Hayley and I have a similar theory?
I will reiterate one thing to you, which is in episode 2, when Beatrice and Virgilia have their fight. And Battler's eventual counter to it is like, what magic battle? There's no evidence here that suggests anything that you say happened actually happened.
Mhm.
And I think that is a mindset that can go the distance. Like, yeah, you say I saw this thing, but where's your evidence that it actually happened? And that's how, like, we got to the point where, like, unless Battler on the board, Battler sees something, we can't be certain that it happened.
And I think the corollary to that is if Battler isn't told about something, did that person even experience it?
Yeah.
Right. And I had that in mind as well. But we have Maria. Oh, actually, we have Maria saying that she and her mother saw Beatrice. And Rosa is like, stop talking. That didn't happen. But she's clearly uncomfortable about something. So then did we even get Rosa really seeing magic? She didn't say. I don't remember. I wish I could go back and read it.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. Okay, so I did find, I've got some text logs of the game. Here's the description of the corpses in the shed in episode 1. Their faces were smashed, forced into an expression that normal person couldn't make even after death. I couldn't tell where the eyes or the noses were, but I could find their mouths because they were gaping wide, the ridges of their teeth exposed, but their front teeth were missing. Even the cheek that should have covered it was all torn up and exposed. Even as a man, the stylish makeup that I thoughtlessly worried about was all useless. I think that's a different translation than we had. He's talking about Rudolph's makeup, I think, in that sentence, but yeah.
Does he ever examine Rosa's body specifically?
I don't believe we get a specific investigation of any particular body. He just says their faces. So
It's the same problem I have in episode 2 when they find Jessica's body, where at the end of the day, Nanjo examines Jessica's body and says he finds a key in her pocket.
Mhm.
If he is an accomplice, that is not a trustworthy statement.
Sure. Okay, so I wanted to go over that. So yeah, the case is that he did not search Rosa's body specifically. I think the text doesn't explicitly say anything about that, so that is possible. Okay, I think that was all the things I had notes on from what you were saying.
Hayley, do you want to go, or do you want me to go?
I don't mind. I don't. We may well be partially on the same page, but probably not entirely.
I think we are.
I don't know.
I want you to go, and I'm gonna fill in then if we are nearly on the same page.
Okay. All right. I don't know that we will be, honestly. I think even Kyle's reaction there.
I'm not sure, but at least we both had the same reaction at the same time to what Becca said. So
Oh yeah. All right. So let me think. How do I word this? I've been trying to figure out how to word this, and it's still ever shifting, even as we are talking right now. I do not have a solid theory like Capelli does. I literally messaged Kyle half an hour ago. So with yet more spice to my sauce.
It's more of a vibes-based theory, yeah.
It is quite vibes based. Everything I do is kind of vibes based, honestly. So I think I'm just gonna say who I think is committing the murders and who I think is the mastermind behind those murders. I think person committing the murders is Ushurmia Battler.
Mm.
I think the mastermind. I'm staring intently at Kyle's face. I'm staring.
I already heard part of this theory, so
I think the mastermind behind it is Ushurmia Battler's mother.
Ooh.
Okay. I don't know who that is yet.
Oh, you don't mean it's necessarily the person he's believed to be his mom, but whoever his true mother is, you think is the master.
So, my next bombshell. Are you ready? Because this will then make it make sense.
Let's go. Let's go.
There are 2 Ushurmia Battler, which I think fucks with all of the number counts. And I refer you to red text for this, and this is why I was kind of getting on your case a little bit about wordplay, because some of the red texts contradict each other in a way that can just be untangled using their words. Like, he's a writer. I think it's down to the specific words using, the logic that he traps us in for that. So I'm actually just going to go to Cal's messages because I think I summarized it there. I think I gave the red truths by saying, Kyle, these are impossible. So one of them is Ushirimiya Battler's mother is Ushirimiya Asumu. You are not Ushirimiya Asumu's son. And that was 2 Battler. So what I said to Kyle was, I could guess that the you in the latter is not referring to this Battler. But then there is also, in red text, my name is Ushirimiya Battler. And they also say it was from Ushirimiya Asumu that Ushirimiya Battler was born. So I think we have another Battler out there who is Asumu's son. And this Battler that we see in all of these games is not that same Battler. I think he is probably still Rudolph's son. And this is where Kyrie comes in. Because we know that Kyrie and Rudolph were in a relationship at the same time he was in a relationship, whatever it was, with Asumu. I think we have 2 Battlers. One is Asumu's son. One is Kyrie's son. Both are Rudolph's sons. I think we have a person out there, and this very much is heavily leaning on what Ben says about, agreeing with what Ben says about us playing. There is a lot yet to be revealed, a big significant event. I think one of those events is what is Rudolph hiding with regards his children and Kyrie potentially. I don't think there's only Angie that she has birthed. And then the other thing is, well, it's kind of tied. It's like why was that baby given to Natsui? Who's strong? My assumption is somebody has strong-armed Rudolph or has pressured Asumu or Kyrie or someone into giving up a child. They gave it to Natsui, and because it would still be Ushirimiya blood because it was Rudolph's child. Natsui thinks that they killed the baby by throwing it off a cliff, but somehow baby survived, and now we are seeing this revenge arc unfold.
So I remember when you told me this theory, my response was,
It was. I think that is a reasonable conclusion.
yeah. Well, we have to think about the Decalogue, right? It has to be someone mentioned in the early part of the story. And Haley's response was, well, Battler is mentioned in the early part of the story.
Yeah.
To which I was like, yeah, he is.
Yeah.
So I think that fits that.
And the counts can all also be backed up by this, because if you consider that they are counting people by name, which they often do in the red text, they go through the names. Ushirimiya Battler is 1 in the counts, because that was another thing that you said to me, Kyle, was like that that doesn't agree with the count of people. So that's something I've thought about since then. I just think there's a whole thing there behind that, which is the motive for all of this. And I think it is something to do with that other Battler and that other Battler's parent, mother, I guess. Or maybe this Battler's mother. I don't know which way around I'm doing this. I get myself lost in it completely, but like that's kind of where I'm at.
I just want to say I love the idea of there being 2 people of the same name on the island being the loophole in the red text that says there's 17.
Yeah, why not?
That I could definitely see going. I love that idea.
Why not, right? Why not? And I think that Kumasawa somehow plays into that alliance because she handed the baby off to Natsui.
Mhm.
I think if she is not related to Asumu, which we don't really know anything about her,
True.
I think she is potentially a friend. We see a lot of cyclical theming in this, and I wonder if there was maybe Asumu was like Kumasawa's niece or granddaughter or something, and Rudolph had a relationship with, this is just like out there and off the wall,
Sure.
with that young woman. And we have seen that repeated then with George and Shannon. Like, I'm just kind of like connecting things loosely, right? In the way that we see cycles repeat. Yeah. I don't know if I have more than that, really. I also, so something, one of the things I said to Kyle is Beatrice could be Asumu. There was a promise 6 years ago, which is when Asumu died. If this battler that we're seeing is not her son, then it takes away all of the weird sort of romantic vibes we've got going through as well.
But to be clear, it just says they love each other, and you could easily turn that into something not romantic.
Yeah, it could be maternal love. Absolutely could be maternal love as well. It's probably not.
Well, that makes the setting of like Battler catching her out the window. That makes Lambda Delta an even more disgusting person.
Yeah, I don't endorse this part of the theory.
Fair.
This is the thing I messaged to Kyle half an hour ago. So
That's something I'd thought about too as a possibility. Is like everybody. This is again kind of like what they deal with at the beginning of episode 5 is how much of what happens before the intro credits of the game in episode 1. How much of that is subjective? How much of that is relevant? No red text ever talks about anything prior. So like, where are the bounds of the game? Because all we're told is Asumu is dead. Battler leaves.
Mhm.
I like a lot of your theory.
thank you. It's like I said, it's a little bit unhinged. It's really more based on the history of the people other than the who is Battler red text. Yeah, it's more based on the history of the stories of the people that we've seen so far and those pieces of stories we've glimpsed. I also think that there is something like Ben or Becca, I can't remember who picked up on it, about the female forward thing. And I think we have actually some representation of our women on the island in the witches. And I think that whomever is assisting Battler 2 is represented by those witches, but it is some of the women that are on the island. So I think it's potentially people like Kumasawa and Shannon
Okay.
that would be more what's the word, sympathetic to this child outcast from the family.
All I'm saying, you've got one doctor on the in the story. Who do you think delivered these babies? No.
Well, maybe he's the key to everything.
I think he is.
Say that again. Key.
I'm in.
You ever noticed
So-
that Nanjo's never in the first Twilight? I have.
It took me like a whole weekend to get there and then staying up till 3 a.m. furiously messaging Kyle about how angry I was about it all. And then I put it aside because it was driving me insane. And I switched over to trying to solve the epitaph and have had just about as much luck with that. So yeah, I love this story.
I've come back around. I simultaneously love it, but I also hate if the solution is through this wordplay loophole, there is somebody who's just been going around the island killing everybody. And that's it.
Well, I mean, there are still plenty of other red truths that would limit somebody, even if there is theoretically some other person. It would still be hard to do a lot of the closed rooms.
Yeah, I didn't dig into it that far. I was like, I like this. I'm going to make it fit. And Kumasawa was still in there. So
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Kumasawa kind of did it.
Kind of.
Yeah, it started with Hayley messaging me about Kumasawa, and then that kind of immediately fell apart as like Kumasawa as direct culprit because there's some red truths that explicitly counteract that.
Yeah.
But then it quickly, you hit on something that was very interesting, and that was one of the things I was like, yeah, I can't really refute this. This kind of works with what we've been shown. So
Whether or not it's true or not is yet to be seen. We're going to see who we'll be introduced to, but I would not be surprised if we are introduced to the children or of some other characters, or potentially Asmu, and maybe learning who this battler's mother is my
Mhm.
guesses for who we're going to see yet.
I want to say my theory at some point soon that kind of goes with this, but like
Go for it.
feels like it melds two together. But I want Kyle. Do you want to do the same thing you did to Capelli, or you don't have anything right now?
I think I already covered the ones that I had.
Okay.
No, please ask her more questions. Please ask her more questions so I feel better about my theory.
Well, I asked these questions when Hayley DM'd me about this, and that's how she got to where she got. I was like, well, what about this thing? What about this thing? So, but yeah, basically, I brought up the Decalogue and a few other things that were contradictory, and then she amended her theory, and that's kind of where she landed. And I think it's decently solid. I don't have anything immediately that I would be like point to as like, oh, this clearly contradicts this. I'd have to go and check the specifics of the Battler reds that we have. I don't think any of them contradict that.
I'm ready to go with my theory.
Let's go.
I'm kind of jumping in because I do feel like mine's a mixture of the two, where I use a lot of Capelli's like looking at red truths for the individual stories that happen in each episode, but I'm using very vibes based for like the general like Umineko storyline as a whole. So I believe that there is one mastermind and that there are about 4 or 5 accomplices, but the murderers are not necessarily the accomplices.
Okay.
I believe the murderers are egged on by the mastermind to commit these murders for some unknown thing. I'm going to go with unknown event X. That still is the breaking point for what sets up the differences in each of the episodes.
Okay.
There is some event X that the mastermind plays with that changes what happens. And this mastermind dies. I believe that this mastermind dies. I believe that and that their accomplices keep filling it out. I believe that there is something to do with Battler being the key to all of this. And my answer for who the mastermind is Kyrie. I think Kyrie overall is the most different out of everybody in the family. She is also already shown to be one of the smartest. And we've already seen that she's a little bit crazy. Like, from the whole jealousy thing,
Yeah.
like, we know that she's there, especially what was it, episode 3, when she actually survives the first Twilight, where she's in like the hallway about how she's like the embodiment of jealousy for the 7 deadly sins.
Mhm.
Like, we know that she has,
Yes.
and I don't ever want to use crazy with women. I get that. I understand, but in this case, like, there is something different, and we know her family
Mhm.
is wild. We see that in episode 4. So we know that there's something there already, that she has a backstory that we still haven't fully touched on.
Yes. I wanted to just real quick jump in. I also think she has the most obvious motive out of the group of people, which is her family wants to take down the Ushirimiya family.
I think that's definitely possible. I haven't figured out so much of the why done it as much as she's the one that, as a story as a whole, if I go with my vibes base looking at the story as a whole, what would be like the coolest conclusion to the end of episode 6 when we hit the climax of this? And it's the fact that as this builds up, we keep seeing Battler get closer and closer to Kyrie in a sense. Like, when, especially during episode 4, when she's like calling him and like they're talking about like what happened. We already said we can't trust anything of magical, and she's the one that's saying there is magic. You need to believe this sort of thing.
Mhm.
There's a whole world where she is doing this for some unknown reason, but because there's something with the parentage of Battler, possibly second Battler, who I don't believe is actually on the island. I don't believe that there is wordplay in that, but I believe that there is a second Battler out there.
But the phones are down. How do you explain all these phone calls if he's not on the island?
I believe that they sabotage the phone lines. That's not actually part of the story. So with all of this being said, we then have to go on to the accomplices of this entire thing that are helping this happen. And I believe that it's a combination of, I don't believe any of the actual family is. I believe that it is Nanjo, Kumasawa, Goda, and Genji. I don't believe Shannon or Cannon are involved. I think that they are legitimate. I think that their focus in episodes 1 and 2 make them not capable of being, personally, make them not like good story reasons for them to have like a stake in this. I believe their stakes is that they are young and around the same age as the cousins. No, Capelli, shut up. So I'm looking at the adults. I'm looking at the people that, for some unknown backstory, could have reason to be against this family and that they want to take the family down. But Battler has been the key to this entire thing because he hasn't been here the past 6 years or what.
Mhm.
So we're looking at, they're trying to get revenge on everybody else in a sense, and sometimes they have to sacrifice themselves. Like, again, this is my entire vibes based like overall arching plot. But if you then go to like individual episodes, I believe that there are ways that you could spin it that it with the Kyrie as the mastermind and the 4 accomplices, you could spin worlds such that it changes who has motivation to kill who. I believe that episode 1, that Natsui is actually the killer behind the beginning of the game. That beginning, but not necessarily the end. I think episode 2 that Rosa. Episode 3, I believe Ava is the killer. Like, and I think it keeps rotating based on what event X happens such that it like they give some piece of information to somebody that kicks something off. Now, why would Natsui kill Kraus in episode 1? I don't know. Why would well, actually I understand why Rosa and Ava would do the things. And I don't believe that they kill everyone. I believe Hideyoshi dies in episode 3 because Kyrie does it. I don't believe that it's always like one killer is killing everybody. We just don't have the pieces necessarily to like that there can be multiple killers that aren't necessarily like the person that's killed the people in the first 6. We have a lot of pieces that all conglomerate down into the sin that Battler made,
Mhm.
and the family dynamic of the Ushirimiya family. There is some, if you imagine it as an hourglass, that is like the crux point of where the sand like would go through. And it's like, why build this up in such a way that the family point of Battler feeds into this entire like murder mystery?
Mhm.
And I can't say I have like figured out everything of every culprit, but I do believe that with the right motivations, that anybody in the Ashiramiya family, other than the Battler narrator that we have talked about, may be motivated to kill other people in their family with the right help if they think they can get away with it. Which, episode 3, Ava gets away with it. Legitimately survives. For the first, like, out of the first 3 episodes, she's the only one that's ever survived, and then goes into the future and we see Angie. So, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm going.
Which person is it that, like, at the very end on the board, Battler's like, so it's you, and they say, you finally figured it out, and then they shoot Battler? Is that Eva?
That's Eva in 3.
I have a theory that is not backed up by anything. That somehow that is Kyrie, personally.
Hmm.
And I would say that the only body double I could possibly think of throughout this entire thing is Kyrie. Is that there is some sort of like corpse already on the island, or something that makes Kyrie be able to both look dead and still be around, because she is so smart. We've seen it throughout this entire thing that Kyrie is the book smartest like person out of the 7 siblings and spouses. So, and again, there's nothing to back that up other than it's just a gut feeling and a vibes based thing that I'm like, I could see there being one body double to allow someone to sneak off into the abyss for a bit and then come back right at the end to shoot Natsui in episode 1, to shoot Rosa and Maria in episode 2. Ava somehow gets away because she was hiding, which is how we talked about it. Episode 4, the epitaph was solved, and I do believe that there's some tie-in with the epitaph and all of this family stuff as well.
Okay.
And episode 5 is a clusterfuck that I don't want to talk about. So that is my general vibes-based theory, that I then have individual mysteries in each episode on who is doing this and why, and I believe that the accomplices are what actually end up helping pull off these issues. That's my theory. Kind of made it up on the spot, kind of while I was thinking about it. So
I love it.
No, yeah.
I also love your I love your theory, just like I like Haley's theory.
I'm also very on board with a Kyrie theory that you just thought of just now, as I also did.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think Kyrie works with both of that. Like, I think yours and mine go hand in hand, right?
That's why I thought when you were saying like Kyrie, like that, like we were going to have a similar theory, and then when you went off with Asumu, which I could also see, I could somehow also see Asumu being part of this, but I don't know how. And a Kyrie is a stronger character that if we look at the Decalogue, Kyrie was mentioned very early on.
Yeah.
Asumu, while mentioned a little bit early on, is not nearly like, and we have I think that would be too out of left field for like the overall plot of a book or a visual novel. And that's where my vibe space is like, do I feel like this would be a good story that Kyle would then call his favorite story of all time? Gotta think about this.
So I can marry our 2 theories then.
Kyrie is Asumu.
Maybe.
No, no, it's not that wild. But Kyrie on the island knows that that battler that is on the island is her son, and had to see Asmu raise her son, not knowing what had happened to her own, or maybe she does know what had happened to her own, because bear in mind, Rudolph and Asmu had already been like betrothed or whatever, or were already married. And so it would have been Kyrie's battler. No, would it? Oh, I don't know. It would have. It could potentially. There's some crossover there. I think Kyrie on the island could know that that battler is her son, which is why battler never dies. Or not until there's one episode he dies in, right? On the game board, I think.
Well, he is part of the sacrifice at the end of the game in episode 2.
Yes.
He's shot at the end of episode 3.
Technically, he dies in every one.
Yeah, in the end, no one is left alive.
But like after the game is over.
He's one of the last alive, right? In
Always.
every single
Yes,
one.
correct. He is never part of any of the Twilights up until literally the end of
10th.
the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think there is some kind of, and he is the battler that has lived in this lap of luxury. And maybe Kyrie on the island doesn't know for sure which battler is which. But maybe her and Asmu, is my thought, have worked together to orchestrate this. The other battler is the one who made the promise to Asmu, which is why I'm saying Beatrice is Asmu, because like on Asumu's deathbed, assuming she did die and she isn't actually in this whole thing, but I could believe that her and Kyrie have masterminded something as a revenge against the entire Ishiramiya family, potentially then leaving one battler alive that hasn't grown up in this lap of luxury. I don't know. That's a bit of a reach, but I think our theories are potentially one and the same, but from different angles. You've looked at like what's actually happened on the island, and I've looked at what happened 19 years ago and who is battler.
I did exclude one theory that I had. I'm going to call this my asterisk theory, which is I was pretty confident that once we'd all given our theories, we would put our heads together and solve it. And I think we are extremely close if we do that. Before I want to divulge more, I want to give Kyle the chance to ask Ben questions and then give Becca the chance to see what she likes the most. And then I think I've got a pretty good theory based on what all three of us have said that what I think is going on.
Ben's theory is pretty loose, so I don't have any specific things to like point at and be like, oh, this clearly contradicts anything.
It's loose, Ben. It's too loose for him to poke holes in. That's it.
I mean, that's a true statement. I did not reference specific red truths like you did. And mine is not like...
Say it in red, Kyle. Say it in red. Repetition requested.
Denied. I get that it is loose, and I'm okay with that because I am taking a shot at the overall overarching vibe of the story right now.
Yeah.
That is what I am trying to solve, because trying to solve the individual murders themselves, I don't think gets us nearly as much as trying to find the motivation behind how they started at the beginning. And also, trying to solve the individual murders is really hard, and I didn't want to do it.
Fair.
I completely agree with you, Ben. Completely agree. I just feel like I personally will get more satisfaction from knowing the whole mystery rather than individual pieces of it. And this, I have hated this because this story makes me feel fucking stupid when I look at individual pieces of it. I'm like, I can't. Goodbye. And I hate it. I hate feeling stupid.
I mean, none of y'all are stupid. Like, y'all are, a lot of stuff y'all talk about here is very good. As I said before, like, I did not expect anyone to come in here and be like, oh, I've solved it. Here's like the solve for any particular room or any particular like culprit. So this has exceeded my expectations.
I mean, I feel like there's still so many unexplored nooks and crannies of this whole thing, and we will just drive ourselves crazy.
Oh yeah,
trying to get to like one particular answer.
It's almost like we've only talked about it for an hour, and we've put over 100 hours into reading it already.
And I think the one that I like the most right now is I'm gravitating toward Hayley's because I think it includes all of the best parts of Ben's theory. And also, I'm not entirely sure I'm completely bought into two battlers, but I am very bought into whatever is going on now has its roots in whatever the fuck happened 18, 19 years ago. So something to do with that is going on. I'm still not sold on knowing what it is though.
Yeah. I think that is an interesting point, is that Battler is described as being 18 years old, whereas the baby is described as being 19 years ago. So there is a discrepancy in the timeline of those things. Not that it's insurmountable, but it is a discrepancy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not saying they're twins, right? They have different mothers. We've got that in red.
Yeah.
So Curie in a scene that Battler is not in, I will say, in the scene where she is fighting against jealousy,
They had the same due date, right?
Yes.
Oh, fuck.
and that she had a miscarriage. But
I remembered that subconsciously.
Oh,
I don't think that there are two battlers for that reason, but I do think it's very funny.
wait. This is
That could be a red herring. Like, she could have had multiple pregnancies, and that one is the one that failed.
sure.
I did have just a very crazy thought occur to me, which is, what if Kyrie was never actually pregnant? She was faking pregnant, and then she faked a miscarriage on the due date, and Asumu actually did have twins, and there are two battlers.
What? I love it.
I don't like that at all. I don't like that
Anyway.
at all.
That's just the right kind of unhinged.
Yeah, no, I'm fully leaning into chaos territory right now, but the thought occurred to me, and I had to say it.
I really want to say a lot that ties in all of our theories, but more so the two of you, because I think you guys are much closer to the truth than I am. But before I do, I want to give Kyle the chance to say anything he wants to say before I go off again.
Okay. Well, I'm debating if I want to give a reminder of a thing that is in the story that I feel like y'all have forgotten about because y'all have not mentioned it in a long time.
Yes. I personally want this thing.
Do y'all remember
No.
that in the Angie future timeline, Angie talked to several people?
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
and
yeah.
found out that her, Kumasawa's son, and Dr. Nanjo's son had received a letter including instructions of how to receive functionally $1 million.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did forget that.
I mean, that just, like, I feel like further bolsters what Ben and I are saying.
That basically tells us who the accomplices are.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it also said that there were several other unused vaults in that same sectioned off area.
We also still don't know what Angie saw in the cabinet that she's like, this is revolutionary.
Yep. We do. No, it was Sakatoro. Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah.
So then we have future timeline connecting Kumasawa, Nanjo, and Maria together. Or I guess you could say Rosa, technically. One of the two, or both.
And Kyrie, because Kyrie is Angie's mom.
And Kyrie. Yeah, you're right. So
yeah, that's part of why I lumped in Kumasawa and Nanjo into accomplices, because
Because we've got kids from them.
they are the people that we then talk to their descendants in the future.
Yeah.
Like, they are the people that, like, we see something from. Again, Goda, who the fuck knows what Goda is on right now?
I think Goda's just Goda. I don't think there's more to him.
You think Goda's a goat? Possibly.
No, not at all. Not even a little.
No, sorry.
Goda's
Goat
not the
being
goat.
like goat.
One of the goat people.
I did not use Goda in the right context there, but not necessary is what I meant. Not the
Gotcha.
GOAT.
Gotcha.
He must attack next combat if able.
But I do think that the future, looking into the future, means that we look at why those specific people are getting money. And Angie, Kumasawa-san, Nanjo-san, and was there anybody else that she visited?
She visited the professor.
Just the scholar.
She visited the ferryman and the professor. Yeah,
Yeah.
Ferryman. Ferryman? Oh, Ferry.
the guy that ferried them over to the island. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the ferryman.
boat captain. Okay, so I have the section that talks about the those key cards. If you want me to describe them real quick.
Man, if Genji is not involved, I'm going to be devastated because it's just like.
I think he is involved, but he doesn't have any descendant to pass it down to, so there was nothing to put there.
Unless he's the father
Yeah.
of the baby from 19 years ago.
That would be funny.
Maybe.
He's a very terrible father then.
I don't know. I think it's Rudolph.
Kyle gave another smirk. I fucking hate when he does that.
Maybe.
Is it because I think it's a funny theory, or I think it's because you're on something? I don't know.
I don't know, Kyle. I don't know.
Yeah. So in terms of the theory y'all described, I think I don't have anything specifically to say about it. I just wanted to remind you of a couple things I thought y'all would be interested in. So I think it's decently solid overall.
I mean, like, I'm looking at the questions you proposed to us.
Mhm.
Who is Beatrice? I had nothing. Hayley is the only person coming in with theories on this. Who are the culprits, accomplices of each game? I think I have the most opinions on that.
Mhm.
Not saying I'm the most right, but I was the one who was talking about it the most.
But generally, we're saying potentially a varying number of the adults was one an option. Usually, most of the servants was an option.
Yeah. So I kind of think I like the idea of settling in on Kumasawa, Nanjo, Genji. I don't know if I like Eva as an accomplice, but maybe.
I don't think that anyone in the family is an accomplice. I think that they are the target.
No, I don't think anybody with a one-winged eagle could be an accomplice, honestly, which is why I think potentially Genji's out because he has the eagle, whereas
Who doesn't have the eagle? Goda and
Nanjo, Kumasawa,
this is one of the things I looked at in my list, in my grids.
Goda doesn't. Kyrie doesn't.
I have a list. So Natsui, Hideyoshi, Kirie are those Shiromiyas that do not. And then the others are Nanjo, Kumasawa, Goda, and I have Erika on my table, but she's kind of
Oh, sure.
separate.
so those married in and some of the servants.
So there are 6.
And like in the world where it's Eva, like I think we have to accept that Hideyoshi is an accomplice, right? Like in episode 3,
I don't think it's ever though. I actually don't.
well, like in episode 3, Eva is so all right.
Yes, I absolutely believe that Eva is the culprit, the murderer of episode 3, and I believe Hideyoshi is an accomplice to Eva, but not the mastermind.
Do I have the floor to go into my Charlie Day moments before anyone else has anything else to say?
Sure.
What if I said no?
I would probably ignore you unless you had like.
All right, cool.
I would give you the chance to say something yourself, but you wouldn't have anything to argue. So I'm gonna. You both said a lot of great things that I think, as a whole, are better than most of the things that I said. I think a lot of things that I said are fun, and I think it gave me insight to kind of unite what you two have put in, which is you guys have tied in who this 19th person is. You've tied in the mystery of who Battler really is. You've tied in theories of who B3 really is, and you've given a much better motive for who your culprits are. How does it work? What did we see happen throughout the course of episode 5? Which is we basically had someone orchestrating all of the movements of Natsui. I believe this voice was present in all episodes, not necessarily to Natsui, but I think we had someone pulling the strings behind the killers all the way through. And if they're not on the island, and it is the only phone line that comes in, because like every episode goes out of its way to say the storm took out the phone lines. Who checked the phones? Our suspected accomplices. Who connected Natsui to talk to this person? Genji. And that would have happened before the start of day 1 of the game, which is a red truth that Lambda Delta refuses to repeat at Burncastle's request. Can you manipulate things beforehand? And if you change who the supposed killers are, you could say that this voice is controlling them from afar with fear. That could explain why we have some characters, if they are killers, doing things outside of what would be normal for their characters, which again is something that's referenced to us and repeated a lot, I believe, especially in episode 5, where it's like nobody on the game would ever do something outside of what their character, like what their personality would allow them to do. And people in desperate straits will do things that they wouldn't normally do. So you push them to that limit and they will do shit. Does that mean Natsui is truly the killer of episode 5? I'm going to say it's possible. Doesn't make her the culprit because she was acting under orders, under duress from somebody else. So that could explain, or that could give like credence to what Ben was saying of how there is a different, we'll say, main perpetrator of each episode, or even people acting in different ways. What if Rosa is intended to be a main killer, but Hideyoshi and Eva confront her and strangle her, like push her onto the fence and strangle Maria? I do not believe Eva was strong enough to do that to a little girl, but Hideyoshi absolutely is. If I were to go just a little bit meta, Kyle told me before we started that there is absolutely some violence towards children in this story, and you can put that into the frame of each episode. I'm also going to say it doesn't necessarily mean that we don't have this person on the island and that there isn't an outside phone line coming in, because I do absolutely love Hayley's theory of there being two people of the same name, most likely Battler. And what does that mean for the red text? It fits a lot. So you have this person giving a lot of direction and going around as well. This could explain a few key kills. Notably, in episode 1, it would explain Natsui and Cannon's death. It would explain how Kinzo's body got placed in a boiler, though the accomplices could do that as well if all they're doing is burning an already dead body because they're not killers, if they're of the three whom that red text is related to. In episode 2, it could explain Cannon's death again with him and Jessica. Genji survives episode 2, right? Yeah, he survives episode 2. We never see what happens to Genji in episode 2 once, like, the demons come out and everything.
Yeah, that is true. The end of episode 2 is still very.
It's still very weird, right? And like a really great like horror description sort of way. Episode 3, I mean, it just leaves him and Eva, Battler and Eva, and I would say in that setting, like the mastermind never reveals themselves to her. In episode 4, you've got like it'd be the first time this other Battler and Kyrie survive a long time, probably to interact.
Well, actually, in episode 3, you can make the case that the mastermind does present themselves to Eva, right? I mean, if you believe the narrative that Beatrice goes up to Eva and says, "Here's the gold. Congrats, you're now a witch." If you interpret that as
True.
being metaphorical for what actually happened, that's possible.
It would explain how there is somebody who poisoned Maria and laid her to rest. Like the way I'm like one of the prevailing theories from Battler at the start is that there has to be someone else on this island, and that red truth of how many people there are, like I can just see it. Not there's two Battlers, and that's how you get around it.
This talk of two battlers has gotten me thinking, wasn't there, Kyle, you're going to have to remind me, and I'm sorry if I'm misremembering, but wasn't there some kind of truth we got where it might have been a truth that got debunked, but we got some kind of truth where what if Ushirimiya Kinzo was referring to Battler?
We do get some conversations about the name Kinzo being used in strange ways in episode 4, I think.
What I'm thinking about is the use of Kinzo's name, is if Kinzo's name can be used for someone else, and we know Kinzo is dead before any of the games begin, then anytime Kinzo is counted as being a person on the island, maybe that fudges the numbers. But I don't know. I don't remember enough details to know how tight that theory is.
Oh, so, I mean, that one's specifically debunked because there's a thing that says, Kinzo's already dead at the starting time of all games. Thus far, I've been declaring that no more than 18 humans exist on this island. I will lower that number by 1 for Kinzo. No more than 17 humans exist on this island. That excludes any 18th person. In short, this 18th person X does not exist. This applies to all games.
Right. Okay.
I mean, like we're introduced to this idea of a second person in episode 2 with this supposedly other canon showing up, right? And we're given Reds. The only one who can go by the name of canon is the person himself. No other person can adopt that name. So nobody else can change the name into it. But if they were both given the name at the same time, they have the same name.
But that's only talking about canon, isn't it?
I'm just saying it foreshadows. If we are correct here, it foreshadows this, right? It gets the reader to clue into that as a possibility. That's called a literary technique. And if I'm wrong, edit this out.
Don't edit it out. It's all part of the fun.
No, I hate when people think.
I'm sure we're all wrong in some way or another.
Oh yeah.
Kyle edits out which bits we're wrong about. all that's left is the answer.
The episode is 5 seconds long.
Yeah.
So, like a couple things that I'll just say in general that I really like about y'all's theories is if Kyrie is the mastermind, or at the bare minimum an accomplice, the interactions between her and Battler talking about flipping over the chessboard, you have that conversation of the protagonist and antagonist. She's basically telling him, this is how you need to think to beat me. I like that as a concept a lot. When you get the sheeps and wolves, right? If Maria is an accomplice of some sort, right? And like the way I think back to it is like I spent a good bit of time last night thinking about the chapel in episode 2,
Mm.
right? Battler has a breakthrough. And then at the end of episode 4, in the question mark segment, I believe, you've got Lambda Delta laughing and saying they didn't eat bombs, that's stupid. Also, in red, something like we know that Maria, like possession of the key never changed hands. Which means Maria had to be present when the door was unlocked and then locked again. And so I started thinking about why all these references to the windows are able to be locked from the inside. So someone snuck out, and then when everybody got there the next day, somebody went and locked the window. Why would they ever sneak out? Is this just a red herring? What's the deal? So I'm wondering if, like, drowsily manipulated Maria is there again, and to hide who was hiding or sneaking out, whatever. I don't know. Something like that is, I guess, technically a possibility. But once again, in episode 4, you have someone who unlocked the chapel, but it's not a main thing, so they don't talk about the key quite so much. But the tracking of the keys is like it's like tracking the guns and you know,
Yeah, episode 2 has a lot of stuff about tracking keys.
yeah. To the point where I just stopped caring. Like that was a thing that was like, I don't have 20 hours this week to devote to sitting down with it the way I would want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm just going to focus on the red and not focus so much on like where the keys would be.
Unfortunately, I do think knowing if we like to take Kyle's hint at face value to imply that a lot of the servants' families received settlements in episode 3 from Ava.
It was in episode 4. It was talked about 'cause it's when Angie is able to like go into the future and see stuff.
Yes. Knowing which servants have which keys at which time then becomes more valuable to pinpoint which of them are helping with which murders, potentially. Something I just realized.
Yes. It's a juicy little tidbit.
And like this whole thing with the windows is like the same thing in episode 2 with Jessica and Cannon's deaths, which is like somebody sneaks out the window's unlocked, somebody who gets in locks it behind them. Like at the time, like I clocked in, like Nanjo could have snuck the key, like in who we have getting $1 million that tells us Nanjo is likely now a culprit. Like the thing that got me into Shannon and Cannon in general is in episode 5, you have Natsui begging anybody to stand up for her, and the servants all sheepishly look to the side, despite the fact that they know Kinzo has been dead.
Mm-hmm.
They have they are a witness enough to know that she is innocent, but they keep their mouths shut. Why would they do that? Why would they let her not only take the blame for these kills, but start getting the shit beat out of her by Eva?
Hold on, can you explain to me how they know she's innocent?
Because they've seen her keep up the ruse. Like it's not like they've had her eyes on her the whole time or anything, but like I'm saying, like they know, like the whole idea of Kinzo being alive is a lie.
Yes, I agree with that.
Well, she's like, actually, so saying that she's innocent is incorrect. My point being is she is adhering to Kinzo is alive because she wants to maintain the family's honor, but they don't do anything, right? You could say anybody who is an accomplice would keep their mouths shut. If we don't think Shannon and Cannon are accomplices, why are they not saying anything? Like for Shannon, her fiance or fiance to be has been murdered. If she is the character we had been led to believe, why would she let this person like it doesn't track with what we know about them leading up to that, which makes me question all of the servants who knew that Kinzo is not actually alive in that moment. The only thing I could think of is they are bound by the Decalogue because it is not a hint given the detective earlier in the story.
And that would be spicy.
Straight up.
I don't know. To me, that makes me trust them more. Like I don't know why. Like unintuitively, like the fact that they're keeping the fact that Kinzo is dead.
But then you have the other servants who we now with this $1 million hint leads us to believe they're accomplices also staying quiet.
Yeah. No, Kumasawa and Nanjo knew, but like both got the settlement and knew that the guy was dead.
We don't know that they got the money. It could have been an agreement that once I have the gold, I will set your family up for life. But they're dead in the future. Like they died on the island. Because if they were alive, they would have told their kids, who wouldn't be telling this random chick coming to their place asking questions. Oh yeah, I got a letter saying I could get $1 million, but I didn't do anything about it. Also, if you've got that gold, $1 million per person who helped you, what a slap in the face. That's what I'm saying.
It was the 80s.
It was the 80s, man. What a line. Oh, Kyle, you tickle me.
Well, I'm curious now. What was $1 million in
It was 100 million yen,
19?
I believe, is what was listed.
Which, well,
Okay,
today's money is like a yen is a
today's
penny.
money.
I know this is like a complete left turn. I am still thinking about instances where we get magic or people talking to magical beings where there's no other witnesses and the story about it doesn't get told to anyone later.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking in particular around the beginning of episode 2, there's the scene where Shannon is talking to Beatrice on the beach. That
Yeah,
Mm.
and the flashback sequences.
Yeah, that's not something that she ever tells anyone about, right? Because she's meeting with Beatrice in secret in regards to her wish to be with George.
I would argue she tells Canon.
She tells George in episode 2, but then they all die, so
Yeah.
Okay.
Which again just makes it more of what does Peace Battler get told? Which the
Yeah.
only thing he's told is in episode 1. Both Shannon and Cannon are basically like put his hand, like basically hands on his shoulder, like, dude, Beatrice exists.
Yeah.
yeah, in the kitchen, Kumasawa, Kanon, Genji, and Maria all stare at him as if there's someone right behind him, and Maria says that he can't see Beatrice.
I wish future Angie, had a story where she went to Fuiken House.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting to take a look at the things that Angie does and does not know in the future. It's quite fascinating.
Interesting. The other thing that it's making me think of, this is my new theory that I just half baked in the past like 30 seconds, so bear with me,
Go for it.
is that everything is in terms of like who the mastermind and accomplices are, everything is so surface level. Beatrice is the mastermind and the accomplices are the servants. And who is Beatrice exactly? Because that is one of the questions here on this
Mhm.
document that we have is who is Beatrice and why would she be doing this? Who is she? We don't know.
There is one person we have not brought up at all.
Who is?
Kinzo's wife.
I was just thinking that.
I thought that, but I like Asmu more.
Yeah. Again, there's absolutely no breadcrumbs to chase for it. I'm just saying we haven't brought it up.
The story has not brought up Kinzo's wife. I would say
Yeah.
by the Decalogue, no, it can't be Kinzo's wife because she gets 0 mentions.
Yeah.
That, but also there are those references Beatrice makes to Battler where she's like, "You remind me of a young Kinzo."
Mhm.
So,
Oh, yeah, you're right, actually. Yeah. Huh.
what does that mean? I feel like I have so many little threads.
So for Beatrice to be able to say, "You remind me of a young Kinzo," would have to be somebody who knew what young Kinzo was like. There's only 2 people in the story who can do that, and that's Kumasawa and Nanjo. I guess Genji, we don't know how old he is.
Or whoever Beatrice is, if she is her own person. That's what I'm saying is like, we
Mm.
don't know exactly who Beatrice really is.
I mean, she gets seen several times by actual people. So
That's what I mean.
We need to see who she is seen by.
Beatrice? Maria always.
Yes.
So Rosa claims to have seen her in episode 2. Kyrie claims to have seen her in episode 2.
Shannon.
Maria claims to have gotten the umbrella from her in every episode.
Mm-hmm.
In episode 4, Battler himself sees her, but it's in the rain at night, and she's on the roof.
And then you've also got George in episode 3 and
Mhm.
4? 3 for sure.
I don't think George sees her in 4. He sees Gap,
Yeah.
and Jessica sees Ronave.
Yeah.
So Rosa, Kyrie, Maria, Battler, George. Is that what we're saying?
But George never relays that information to Battler. So I also would argue that that is just meta world fan service storyline, with that they're building. We have Maria definitely says she's seen Beatrice just about every storyline.
Mm.
We have Rosa, who I think does admit to is something weird going on in episode 2. What you said, Kyrie? What does Kyrie see her?
Kyrie sees Beatrice heading up to the VIP room, like from the hallway.
But is that ever sent to our protagonist's point of view?
To Battler, no. It's mentioned to the other adults as a part of a later. No, I think at dinner. I think she says that she saw. So Battler may have been present when Kyrie brings up that there was a woman here.
God, I feel like we are all just like we're so close. Shut up.
No, we're not.
Yeah, I think we are.
There's no way. There's no way.
There's totally a way.
I'm not gonna stop trying to figure it out. I feel a little bit guilty that I wasn't able to give the mystery the attention and time it was due before we recorded this.
Yeah.
Because now talking about it, I'm starting to be like really thirsty for it.
You still got time.
I mean, there's no reason we can't have addendums later. So
Oh yeah,
If it makes you feel better, you're putting more effort into it than Kyle did original.
true, very true.
true. I'll take. Hey,
Oh, dear.
at least I'm not last, right?
Okay, so a couple of the points I think I want to just kind of hit on real quick that we haven't really gone over. Man from 19 years ago. We've got the theory that it's the other Shirmia Battler, and Pelly had said this, that voice may be used to compel people to do things in all episodes.
Let's look at what's the global truth. Battler-kun, you are not the culprit. You haven't killed anyone. This can be said of all games. I mean, like there are like crazy theories I could think of that I would hate, like it's a multiple personality thing with Battler.
Mhm.
That would be so stupid. Like when Battler becomes a supreme sorcerer at the end of episode 5, he has the truth, and his argument is, "You can't say I didn't do it."
Mhm.
What does that mean?
He was able to build a compelling case, apparently.
So you have to consider worlds where Battler is a mastermind. Which Battler, if we want to get into this two Battler theory more,
Yeah, that one says you, so that one's clearly talking about the Battler that we know.
Yeah.
And if you want to play into it, Battler, you are not the culprit, but other Battler is.
But she says Battler-kun. She doesn't say, "Share me a Battler, you are not the culprit."
True.
Yeah.
Okay, so another note, I did look up the moment where Kyrie talks in the dining room about seeing somebody. She does say, I also met with her, I greeted, well, I really couldn't call it that. I exchanged a few words with her. It's definitely not something that Rosa saw wrong. So Kyrie does claim to meet someone who looked like the Beatrice the portrait, and does tell Battler that.
And so Battler knows of all of those, right? Those 5 people's interactions with Beatrice. So Rosa, Kyrie, Maria, Battler, and George.
I don't believe he has any knowledge that.
Maybe not George.
Yeah, I don't think he has any knowledge of George ever interacting with Beatrice.
Rosa and George is question marks. Okay.
At least Rosa claimed to have seen her in Battler's presence. Rosa would at least have to be lying in that case.
Oh yeah, so my column is Battler present on the retelling, not necessarily on.
Yeah.
Did he also see her?
Yeah, because the clarification is like if Battler never sees a scene, if like let's say if someone says like we were chased by golden butterflies from the chapel, like if they told that to Battler, then they either that happened or they're lying, right? Whereas if they just then die and Battler later finds their body and all that was just stuff told in the meta world, like no one lied about that except for I guess Beatrice. No one knows for sure if that happened or not.
Yes. Which is mostly the world I'm living in. Like, say, that's why I want to go back and remember, okay, which stories of seeing magic are directly told to Battler is the key.
Yeah, I think Shannon claims to have seen some stuff when she's talking about like, there's ghosts in the mansion. She talks about like, she's seen the golden butterflies of Beatrice once in the mansion.
Yeah.
So that could easily be construed as like, I'm telling tall stories for Maria.
I mean, and same with canon and everybody who saw other canon, resurrection of canon, whatever. All those people, to me, their testimonies are suspect.
Yeah, their testimony is interesting because I believe what happens is Goda basically says, I don't know how to explain it. It was confusing. And he's very like, I don't even know what that was. And then Genji steps in and explains what happened, I believe is what happens.
So it's like the kind of the same thing with Goda and Kumasawa in episode 4, where they are struggling to tell the kids what they saw,
Hmm.
and then the phone call tells them to lock them up.
Yes, it's along those lines, I believe. The last thing I really wanted to hit on is we got a request from one of our readers to talk about specifically the death of Dr. Nanjo in episode 3, and that is Eva Beatrice's Web of Red. As it's kind of like a notorious case that's like a good one to like try and break down, I think.
Yeah. All right. So the red gives us 3 people it absolutely cannot be, which is Battler, Eva, Jessica.
Mhm.
We are also told in red that Rosa and Maria were homicides. So we know it can't be those 5: Battler, Eva, Jessica, Rosa, Maria. We're told in red everybody from the first Twilight are dead, which is Kanan, Shannon, Genji, Kumasa, like all the servants, basically. So that leaves Rudolph, Kyrie, Hideyoshi, George, Kraus, Natsui, and Jessica. Well, okay, no, we know not Jessica. So it leaves those. And then we'll say asterisk 19th person, 18th person, whatever, other battler, or the voice on the phone, whomever.
Mhm.
If that person is on the island, simple solution, right? It's them. Right? So we'll ignore that as a possibility because that's boring and doesn't give us much to talk. So again, that leaves Rudolph, Kyrie, Hideyoshi, George, Kraus, Natsui. 6 people that the red states could be on the island to have killed Nanjo. We told it's not a suicide, it's not a trap, it's not an accident. Somebody, a human, looked Nanjo in the eyes, pulled the trigger, and killed him face to face. That is what the red tells us.
Yep. Yeah, this is the one where Eva Beatrice says no more than 18 humans and then lists everybody, their alive and dead status.
But is that before Nanjo dies? Like, I could kill Nanjo and kill myself, and that red text fits.
Yeah, I think that's theoretically viable. That's a classic trick from episode 5, right? When was this red statement made? When did it apply?
Yeah. One of the things I think about is Jessica was with Canon, Shannon was with George.
Mhm.
Jessica survived a little bit longer. So, like, I'm like, oh, so it could have been canon, but we're told in red, like, the victims of the first Twilight are dead. None of the 6 committed suicide. The 6 died instantly. There's no one hiding in the 6 rooms. Kinzo, Genji, Shannon, Cannon, Goda, and Kumasawa, these 6 are dead.
Mhm.
But, like, again, you got to connect that to Kinzo having been already dead.
It's really been bothering me, this issue.
We found a solution to the first Twilight in episode 3, did we not? Because we are not given the perspective of these bodies being found.
No, yeah, I think the pointing out that the timeline of when someone was declared dead, they theoretically could have killed Dr. Nanjo and then died, is absolutely a valid way to solve this one.
That's valid. Also, you sure me about it too.
Yeah, especially wanted to bring this one up because the Battler 2 theory actually applies pretty applicably to this one.
I was about to say, is it significant that one of these bullet points says Ava was with you the whole time, so committing a crime was impossible for her. Of course, Battler Coon isn't the culprit. If she's ostensibly talking to Battler, or is that a transcription thing?
Uh,
Or is that significant?
she was talking to Battler. Yes, the you in that is Battler.
Yeah. But then she refers to Battler Coon not being the culprit in the third person after referring to him directly in second person.
Yeah, you can make the case, depending on how you want to interpret it, you could say that is her saying neither you, this Battler, or other Battler. That is a valid interpretation, I would say.
Okay.
So you could argue that, like, if there's a 2 Battler theory, she'll refer to one as Shirmia Battler and the other as Battler Coon, which is a way to track that through the red text.
Potentially. I think that would be a valid lens to potentially look at things.
Sometimes I like when you talk, and sometimes I don't.
Rude.
I'm just saying, if that theory is true, I would expect something like that to be the case, right?
Right, because if she doesn't say Ushiro Mia Battler and she just says Battler, okay.
All right, I think that covers all the stuff I really wanted to hit on. If we want to do a separate epitaphy kind of solution thing, we could do that some other time.
I'm kind of enjoying where I'm at with it, though. I feel like I get just a little bit closer each time, you know? Like,
And then every
like
time you're like, I hate
said,
you, Kyle. This is awful.
I'm sorry. I'm so mean. You know I don't mean it, though.
I know.
Yeah.
All right.
I have so much to say.
Well, that's something we talk about separately. So, yeah, I thought this was really interesting. I thought I'd get to pick y'all's brains on. I think I've got some really interesting theories, some of which have some solid basis, I will say. I think you've got some stuff here that I think are worth thinking about moving on into the next episode. So, with that in mind, we are going to start reading episode 6. I don't have a stopping point for y'all laid out yet. I'll have to go figure that out.
So that means if we start reading now, he can't tell us when to stop.
You gotta figure it out, Kyle.
That's always been my plan. So
Yeah, I'll send you the stopping point, and I'll cut it here with when the reading will stop.
cut now.
Next time, we are starting episode 6, Dawn of the Golden Witch, with about 2.5 hours of reading, ending on the line, welcomed in by a storm, the same as always, very good. And now you and I are going to have some fun, Battler-san. After which there is a flash of lightning in a stormy sky, and that is videos 93 to 95 of the YouTube playlist. So thank you all for joining us, hope you enjoyed our crazy theories, and remember to think off meta.